Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à cette
Good evening,
réunion du
everyone.
Conseil.
Welcome to our council meeting. This is the meeting which is an information session, a meeting during which we listen to various presentations, and when eventually the cases or the situations come before us, these might eventually be part of official meetings of council for decision-making purposes and votes. The meetings like this one this evening is for us to listen to people who have various topics and sometimes very important topics and issues for our community. So without further ado, I will invite the first presentation or presenters to come forward who will be speaking to us about the Community Peace Garden. This presentation will be done by Sherry Trenholm, and
Person that's been working hard in the community for a long time in the southeast region. So we're happy to welcome you. And as soon as we get the the electronics going, we'll be just fine.
All right. We got it? I think we
So we're good to go.
Okay. Bonjour tout le monde. Monsieur Maire,
good evening,
Madame.
everyone, Your Worship, ladies, gentlemen. I'm Darlene Doiron, and here's Terry. Sherry, our presentation will be in both languages. We are here today with the purpose of sharing our vision with you of establishing an international peace garden. 5 years ago, already 5 years ago, the city of Dieppe was designated as an international city of peace by the United Nations. And the purpose of this was to have 1,000 of these designations by 2030. There are 11 at the current time in all of Canada. So it's a huge honor to be a city of peace. I've just come back from a trip to China where I also visit others cities of peace, and you will see what a great honor it is to be designated a city of peace. At the time, we were looking with Gabrielle Maillet. I don't think she's with the city anymore. And we had a plan at the time to support activities related to peace. With our upcoming anniversary, which is September 21st, 2025, which is our 5th-year anniversary, we are putting forward the idea of a peace community garden, and Sherry will explain that. Hello, everyone, and thank you for giving us this time to share our vision of a peace community garden in Greater Moncton for everyone.
Set. Beautiful. So the garden actually is going to be located in Mapleton Park, next to the Mapleton Rotary Pavilion. And so it's in close proximity to the parking lot, so that anyone that has accessibility issues will be able to get access to the garden easily from there. And of course, we also wanted to make sure it was in a visible location because we do have opportunities sometimes for vandalism. So it's a well-lit area with security around it as well. So when you come into the park, you're going to be greeted by a community peace garden sign that we actually have a recent donor that's going to commit to that. But in addition to that, we are going to have a peace pole. And this peace pole actually will be the first one in the Greater Moncton area that has 8 languages on it, including English, French, and Mi'kmaq. But we did in 2021, there was a census done in the area to identify the greater population and the languages. And so I did an update follow up with Moncton Cares, who are very much in touch with the community. And actually, 2 languages changed because our population for India and Ukraine has increased since the census. So those 2 languages will be included on the Peace Bowl. And I'm proud to say we do have a donor for the Peace Bowl as well. And so we also have one of the items that we did in the park, we consulted with the Indigenous. And so I'm very blessed. I am working with an Indigenous artist on our new police station here that we have for the Greater Moncton area. And so he actually I consulted with me with type of plants that were used in gardens. Also, turtles is a very important feature, turtle island with the Indigenous. And so we have an artist, Kerry O'Toole. He's from Woodstock, and he is actually constructing the turtle art. So it's 59 inches high. So it's a pretty big turtle, and it will be kind of angled so like a sea turtle. So our garden is 82 feet long and it is 35 feet wide. So this is a large garden. And we have included, it will not have pavers. It will have little, basically stone dust that walk on the walking paths that will take you to a seat wall. You can see in the lower part of the picture, there is a seat wall that we can actually sit either direction towards the park or towards the green area between the park and the Rotary Pavilion. In addition to that, we have a pergola. And the pergola, actually, we've partnered with the New Brunswick Community College in Moncton, and we are going to buy the materials, but the staff and the students are actually going to construct the pergola for us in the shop and then bring it to the site and erect it. In addition to that, we have 2 benches that will be in that pergola area. And I'm really pleased to say we have really a great partnership with the City of Moncton. They've donated the land. They have donated the landscaping and maintenance of it after it's built. And in addition to that, they've donated 2 parking benches as well as a picnic table and a $10,000 contribution to the project. In addition to that, we will have a book library, a house, so that people will be able to take books both for adults and children, spend some peaceful time, but they will may be able to take the books out and then bring them back with replacements. We've partnered with the Kodiak Woodworking Guild in Riverview, so that we're working with them for the book library house. Again, we will cover the material cost. And the birdhouses, we are going to partner with Vivian Birdhouses. She actually constructs the houses out of reclaimed lumber, and she charges $65 for each birdhouse, but all the money goes towards wildlife animals that are injured. So that is a great partnership with that group as well. So, and we continue to build on that partnership. My goodness. All right, so here is the characteristics of the park. So just to give you a visualize of what I talked to, and the only thing that I didn't mention, you see to your right, the birdhouse, the peace pole, the turtle, which is kind of resemblance to what it will be constructed, and the book library, but also wind chimes, which is an important element in a peace garden. And here a little more closer, you'll look at the seat wall. And if you've been to Hopewell Rocks here in the last 2 years, the exact type of seat wall is actually at the entrance to Hopewell Rocks, pergola, and the sign is only a sample. We're working on the graphics on that. Oh.
On a ici juste plusieurs raisons pourquoi un jardin.
Here are the many reasons why we would like a peace garden: to promote peace and unity, and the fact that we have been designated now for 5 years to support mental and physical well-being of our citizens. And clearly, according to our research, it tells us that gardens have a positive effect on citizens and people, provides learning opportunities. There will be many opportunities available for citizens to share information. It improves the environment and also encourages community involvement and volunteerism amongst all citizens. And finally, it's a place for everyone, for all ages, where everyone can visit, work together, cooperate together without being in any way divided. It's a place where there will be a great deal of beauty, calmness, safety, accessible to all. With this, there are 8 of us who are members of the committee.
So just to tell you a little bit about the plants that'll be in the garden. We have 203 plants that actually are going to be in the garden. There are 10 trees, and each one of the trees we've actually got donors. But one of the trees is extra special because it's a Vimy-rich oak tree. And so we have the former executive director of the New Brunswick Landscaping Association that is going to donate that tree in honor of the veterans. In addition to that, you'll see yellow highlighted plants, which are the sweetgrass, and all those ones are indigenous plants. Of course, they're ceremonial. Mountain ash is used for basket making, as well as the paper birch for canoe making. And so, of the plants that we have in the design that you just saw the garden's cost is $100,000. But the in-kind for the design was provided by Vidiris Design. So just to give you an example of who is actually committed to it, and some of them are in kind. So the $100,000 is above and beyond the in kind that we've already received. But Power Air Cleaning are the donor for the turtle. Green Cities Foundation have actually committed to $20,000 provided that we conduct and work with the community to help build this garden, as well as they will match. We must raise the 20,000 in order to achieve the 20,000. Trees for Life actually are going to, they've offered up to a maximum of $6,000 to help us with the planting of the tree. And EXP Services is actually did the design of the pergola. So one of the things is you have to get a development permit, which I'm probably similar to the city of Dieppe. We have to do it in the city of Moncton, and we had to have a design done. So they gave that as an in-kind. We have a number of landscape nurseries that are providing the materials, but we still have some landscapers that are actually going to donate their time to help with the planting of the plants. And we're pursuing financial institutions, local businesses, and this is our third presentation to municipalities. So we have done one to the city of Moncton, last the town of Riverview, and tonight the city of Dieppe. And we are challenging the municipalities to also provide support to this Greater Moncton Community Peace Garden.
C'est juste ça. On est 8 personnes.
So there are 8 of us on this committee. Daryl and Sherry are co-chairs. I, Stacy, Tammy are with us here this evening. Maria and Nigel are also members of the committee. With regard to those who were part of this group 5 years ago, Sherry and I were certainly part of that group at the time. And if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them. Oh, Sherry has one thing to add.
Get it constructed this year because some of the grants are only available to the end of the calendar year, and particularly the province of New Brunswick, who must spend it in this calendar year. But the other challenge that we're actually going to do, and I actually did 2 presentations on the garden last week, is we plan to do a giant human peace symbol. So in India, they actually did 1,078 people. So when we get this garden done, we are hoping to break the Guinness World Book of Records here in this area by doing the same.
Merci. Merci. Thank you very much. Question de la part des membres du Conseil.
Thank you. Questions by council members? Questions? Mr. Thibault, Councillor Thibodeau. Okay. Once again, Councillor Godbout. Thank you for this presentation. One question, I presume, how are we going to encourage people to use the park? How are we going to target people using the park? It's a good question.
Park. Do you want to?
So Mapleton Park is, we have 4 major parks in the city of Moncton, and Mapleton Park is one of them. We already have a fair amount of traffic because the Mapleton Rotary Lodge is rented out for events from weddings to Boy Scouts to Nature Moncton, a number of Rotary. The Rotary Club of Moncton West and Riverview actually donated $200,000 to that particular project, similar to your Rotary Club here in Dieppe. The same with your park. So there is a fair amount of traffic just going through the building, but it is one of our higher traffic parks of people going through it. But we, number one, want to identify special locations. Our goal was actually to celebrate International Peace Day in the park this year, but we don't have the funds raised. Right now we have $75,000 raised of the $100,000, so we're on the last stretch, and we really need to have all the funding in place. So it won't make it for this year, but we're definitely going to do it this next year. We're hoping that we'd be able to do some other ceremonies, our reconciliation on September 30th, our Remembrance Day because of our Vimeo, so it's very partnership here with the veterans. So we're really hoping that we're going to maximize on the opportunity to celebrate different events, and having it in close proximity to Mapleton Rotary Lodge allows us, if we have inclement weather, we have the opportunity to do the exterior deck of the building, and plus we do have kitchen area, full washrooms, and that lodge is actually fully accessible. So, and that location, because of closeness to the parking lot, easy accessibility for people of every age, that was why we had looked at a couple other locations, but because the amount of people that are going through the park, one thing the city doesn't do is they track. I know how many people used the building last year because we have rental, but we don't track the number of people that walk the trails every day. So I tried to confirm that information, but we're going to maximize once it's built as many opportunities as we're going to do it.
Okay, thank you. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Are there any further questions? Not seeing any others.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Bonsoir.
Good evening. The second presentation is how we see Dieppe happening in 2035. David Campbell is going to be doing the presentation.
Good evening. So do I have to put my slide deck in, or is the deck already in the system? See. Okay, great. And then how do I just punch here when I want to move? Okay, great. Thank you. Merci. Bonsoir, membre du Conseil. It's nice to see so many friendly and familiar faces. It's good to see you again, Your Worship. We've had many interactions over the last 20 plus years. So I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about a report that I prepared on behalf of the Southeast Regional Service Commission. I was hired by the group to develop a report for 13 different communities or 12 communities in the rural area here in the Southeast region. So these are reports looking to the future for all of the different municipalities. Obviously, I think they're probably even more relevant in the smaller communities that don't have the same level of planning capacity that you have here in the city of Dieppe. You have a good team, a talented group that understands the economy here. But hopefully this report will add a little bit of value to you as you contemplate the future and look at growing your community in the future. So I trust all members of council have received a copy of the report. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. We basically start just with a little history of the community, how it was founded originally, looking at the First Nations and the indigenous populations, and then the European settlement, and then as the economy sort of grew over the past 100 years or so. And then we move into the economy today, and of course, it's a story of great success. Dieppe has been one of the faster growing municipalities, not only in this province, but across the country. And I would suggest that growth has been well managed, and the city has done extremely well in recent years. If you look at the data from Statistics Canada, there are about 1,200 employer business establishments in the community. And about 21,000 people active in the workforce here in Dieppe. And that's specifically to the businesses and employers here in the community. We'll talk a little bit later about the difference between the people living here and the people working here. Within this workforce, the city has a large entrepreneurial class, so it is a very entrepreneurial city. There's about 1,900 self-employed people as of 2024. And the number of entrepreneurs or people that are self-employed working in the city here has increased 90% since 2001. So there's been, again, much of the growth here has been as a result of entrepreneurship. Just to sort of put the growth that we've seen in context, even though the city only represents 20% of the metropolitan area population, between 2001 and 2024, it accounted for 35% of all employment growth. So employment growth here has been much faster than the rest of the metropolitan area. Back in 2001, Dieppe employers employed 1 out of every 31 workers across the province. And by 2024, 1 out of every 19 people working in New-Brunswick were employed here in the city of Dieppe. So there's a number of tables, sometimes detailed, maybe a little too detailed in the report, but basically just, again, trying to show the change. So this specific table looks at the difference in the number of business establishments between 2015 and 2024, or as of the count in December of 2024. And again, this is Stats Canada data. And we've seen a very robust increase of 24% in the number of employer establishments here in the community. And again, that's much, much faster than the city of Moncton and other communities across the region here. Big growth in healthcare and retail trade and construction. Retail trade in particular, the community is really solidifying its role as a retail hub for the region. There's 65% increase in the number of retail trade establishments here in Dieppe. Also professional and scientific and technical services, so legal services, engineering services, and so on, is a growing sector. Accommodation and food services. So you can just go down that list and see the growth that we've seen. The only sector that's seen a decline in the number of business establishments has been wholesale trade, and we've seen a decline in that sector across the region. If you look at the industries where there's a higher concentration of firms in the region, again, that's adjusted for population size. You have 37 manufacturing firms, and that's 49% more compared to your peers in other cities in New Brunswick. You can just see we compared to Moncton, Riverview, St. John, and Fredericton. Construction, there's a much higher percentage. If you look at the number of firms in transportation and warehousing, there's 191% more here compared to your peers. Again, adjusted for population size. more health and social assistance companies, ambulatory healthcare. If you look at offices of physicians, there's 100 different offices of physicians here in the city, and that's much, much higher, again, adjusted for population compared to the rest of the region and the province. And then industries like clothing and retail stores and legal services and personal care, all with a much higher percentage of concentration here in Dieppe. So again, looking at growth in terms of the number of industries. So between 2015 and 24, we saw growth in the food and beverage sector, adding a net growth of 7 firms here in the community. Truck transportation more than doubled the number of firms over that period, and the personal care services sector added 17 employer firms, or an increase of 94%. Your IT sector continues to grow strongly, and legal services. In 2015, there were 26 law firms or legal services firms, and now there's 31. And then we've seen strong growth in the number of restaurants. As of December 2024, there were 64 restaurants, according to Statistics Canada, in the city, up from 54 in 2015. So we also looked, and this is particularly important in an era of trade disputes with the U.S., we looked at what sectors of the Dieppe economy are export-oriented. And this is data estimated by Lightcast. Stats Canada does not do this kind of analysis at the municipal level. So there's a firm called Lightcast that does it, and they suggest that converted paper product manufacturing, or the plants here in the industrial park, are worth about $350 million worth of export revenue. Some of that would be exposed to the U.S. and some of the trade challenges. But a lot of the big industries here are in services like banking and financial services, insurance carriers, the trucking sector, courier sector, food, electronic component manufacturing, and business support services. So these are sort of the top export-oriented industries, and those are exports within Canada and also internationally. And there's more narrative about that in the report. So we also look at population and household trends over the last few years. And as I mentioned earlier, Dieppe's population has been growing extremely fast. Between 2001 and 2024, the population increased by more than double, or 121%. That's twice as fast as the city of Moncton, 3 times as fast almost as the city of Fredericton, much faster than Riverview and St. John as well. So very fast growth, but I would suggest well-managed growth as well. Of course, most of the population growth over the last 20 years, or in the early phase of that, was coming from elsewhere in New Brunswick, a little bit from outside the province, but mostly from the rest of the province. But in recent years, we've seen a big uptick in the number of newcomers settling in the community. In 2024, just under 900 permanent residents were admitted to Canada with Dieppe as their municipality of intended residence. So that's the language around that. They don't necessarily follow people around, but they put on their form that they're going to live in Dieppe. So that's a big increase you can see here over the last few years. So increasingly newcomers are settling in our community here in Dieppe. We also looked at income statistics in the report, and one of the ones.
On a également regardé les revenus et les statistiques sur les revenus, et par exemple la part de la population qui est au-dessus du seuil de faible revenu, et aussi basée sur le prix d'un panier de biens, et la population qui se trouve au-dessous du seuil du faible revenu est très faible ici à Dieppe. C'est peut-être les choses ont peut-être évolué depuis le dernier recensement, mais à ce moment-là, c'était que 3,4% de la population qui était en dessous du seuil du faible revenu et que 1,4% des personnes aînées étaient en dessous de cette ligne, de ce seuil, que comparé à Moncton, Riverview, Saint-Jean et Fredericton, par exemple. On a également regardé la main-d'œuvre. Ceux-ci sont les personnes qui vivent ici à Dieppe, pas tous ceux qui y travaillent. Il y a un tableau dans le rapport qui montre la mobilité des travailleurs qui rentrent et qui sortent, mais parmi ceux qui vivent en communauté, les emplois les plus répandus sont la vente, les services, suivis des des affaires, des professions, finances, administration, les transports, l'entreposage, les métiers, la machinerie, les domaines apparentés. Ce sont le groupe le troisième en plus d'importance, et ensuite l'éducation, les services sociaux, communautaires et gouvernementaux, et ensuite les sciences naturelles et appliquées et domaines apparents. Ce sont les 5 occupations les plus répandues. Encore une fois, juste pour mettre en contexte ici, pour comparer, il y a la concentration d'emplois à Dieppe par rapport à ses homologues. Et vous voyez ici la plupart des secteurs où il y a une plus grande concentration à Dieppe et dans le secteur des transports, l'administration et des travaux administratifs, certaines professions en construction, mais il y a vraiment un peu de tout ici. Et tout ce qui dépasse 1, ça veut dire que vous avez une concentration plus élevée de façon, alors encore une fois, beaucoup en transport et les services connexes et d'autres industries de services. Il me reste que quelques diapos et ensuite je prendrai vos questions. Une autre chose qu'on voulait regarder était l'âge des travailleurs. Un peu plus de 2000 personnes ont plus de 55 ans, mais continuent à travailler, et ça m'inclut à moi aussi. Merci. Et ces personnes vont quitter la main-d'œuvre dans les 10 ou 15 années, comme Monsieur le maire en est un bon exemple de ceux qui vont rester plus longtemps. Et Monsieur le maire, vous pouvez rester très longtemps, si vous voulez. Et alors, on essaye de voir le rapport des plus jeunes par rapport aux plus âgés. Et donc, on a 125 personnes de plus de 55 ans pour chaque personne âgée de 15 à 24 ans. Et il n'y a que Fredericton qui a un rapport plus faible parmi les autres villes ici. Comparé à Saint-Jean, notre représentation démographique est beaucoup préférable, mais il faut qu'on s'assure d'avoir des plus jeunes qui arrivent en communauté, des jeunes familles, pour s'assurer d'avoir des travailleurs à l'avenir. Il y a quelques instants, j'ai mentionné le fait que les travailleurs sont très mobiles et nous allons faire un rapport qui montrera l'évolution ou les déplacements des travailleurs à l'intérieur de la région. Mais ici, le titre n'est pas le bon ici, mais dans le tableau, on voit la mobilité des personnes. Ça, c'est les personnes qui travaillent ailleurs qu'à la maison, les personnes qui doivent se rendre à un travail tous les jours. Vous voyez qu'à gauche, on voit les personnes qui travaillent à Dieppe et on voit où ces personnes habitent. Il y a 3800 personnes qui vivent et travaillent à Dieppe. Il y en a 3500 qui viennent de Moncton ou de Riverview, des régions environnantes. Ça, ce sont les personnes qui rentrent à Dieppe pour y travailler tous les jours. Mais en même temps, si on voit de l'autre côté les personnes qui vivent à Dieppe mais travaillent ailleurs, il y a plus de personnes qui vivent à Dieppe et travaillent à Moncton. Les personnes choisissent de vivre à Dieppe, c'est leur communauté de choix, mais ces personnes travaillent à Moncton, à Shediac, à Riverview, à Dorchester même. Quand on présentait ceci au conseil de Moncton, justement, on voyait qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes qui rentrent, mais beaucoup de personnes qui se rendent ailleurs pour travailler. Et ça, c'est le signe d'une main-d'œuvre saine. Aussi, on a essayé de projeter la croissance démographique jusqu'en 2035. Toutes les hypothèses du rapport. Ceci est probablement plus utile pour les plus petites collectivités parce que vous comprenez mieux les tendances, les enjeux ici, mais on l'a fait pour tout le monde. On voit que le premier scénario ici, s'il n'y a pas de croissance, peu ou pas de croissance, dans d'autres collectivités, on regardait une population stable, mais ici, ce qu'on dit ici, selon nos hypothèses, selon le nombre de personnes que nous pensons, prendront leur retraite, il faudrait augmenter la population de 1,5% par année juste pour maintenir le cap. Alors, il y aura 2000 personnes vont quitter la population active, mais il y en a 2800 qui vont se joindre à la population active, mais il n'y aura pas de croissance démographique. Et ceci est ce qu'on constaterait ailleurs en raison de la réalité de leur population. Alors, si pour une raison, la population de Dieppe arrêtait de croître, la population active se réduirait d'ici 2035. Le deuxième scénario, si on a un taux de croissance assez fort, et à Dieppe, oui, le taux de croissance a été très fort. Donc, ceci, c'est juste pour si on maintient la cohérence, si on augmente de 3% ou 3,4% par année. Non, ici, on dit que dans ce scénario, la municipalité devrait stimuler la croissance de sa population à une moyenne de 3%, qui est moins que la croissance annuelle de 3,4% observée dans 2001 et 2024. Alors, si on croit moins que la moyenne des 20 dernières années, on va continuer à grandir. Maintenant, si il y a un taux de croissance très rapide, et ça, c'est ce qu'on a constaté depuis quelques années, vous allez ajouter 6 000 personnes à la population active d'ici 2035. Alors, c'est à vous. Vous devez décider la croissance que vous voulez et voir que vous avez les logements nécessaires et les services pour y répondre à cette croissance. Mais tous ces scénarios sont les, les deuxième et les troisième scénarios sont tous les deux très optimistes et offriraient la population active les travailleurs nécessaires pour assurer que l'économie continue à croître également. Encore une fois, votre équipe en développement économique a regardé les possibilités là-dessus, mais on a une section dans le rapport sur les différents secteurs de croissance. On a déjà mentionné les soins de santé, mais et j'ai dit la même chose à Moncton, nous devons vraiment regarder notre secteur privé pour assurer qu'il augmente également parce que le secteur public va peut-être être modéré. La croissance du secteur public va être plus modérée en raison des coupures au niveau provincial et fédéral. Et lorsqu'on a rédigé le rapport, on a suggéré que le transport et la logistique est un potentiel pour cette communauté, la fabrication générale, la fabrication alimentaire et de boissons. Il y a une certaine croissance, mais on peut, une fabrication alimentaire est possible. Le tourisme aussi pourrait connaître un tourisme d'ici 2025 et le secteur des TI. Et solidifier votre rôle en tant que centre commercial de vente au détail. Ça, c'est une des belles histoires depuis plus de 20 ans. Et il y a d'autres questions, d'autres enjeux entourant ces secteurs et leur croissance, mais on le mentionne dans le rapport, mais voici très rapidement juste les secteurs que nous considérons détiennent un potentiel pour l'avenir. Et il y a certaines considérations également. Dans certaines communautés, on ne voit pas les mises en chantier nécessaires. Si on regarde Trois-Rivières ou Salisbury, il faut qu'on regarde comment on peut répondre à la demande en logement. Cette communauté a répondu à cette demande. Et dans le rapport, on regarde les tendances en matière de logement jusqu'à la fin de 2023. Et ensuite, on parle ce que vous devez faire pour vous assurer que vous avez une qualité de vie attirante. Il faut des logements, bien sûr, des espaces verts, des transports publics. Et il faut s'assurer que tous les résidents soient à une distance raisonnable d'un arrêt d'autobus, par exemple. Et ensuite, il y a d'autres infrastructures municipales nécessaires. Alors, cela dit, Monsieur le maire, ça me ferait plaisir de répondre à vos questions. Y a-t-il des questions de la part des membres du Conseil?
Madame Le Boutier.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you for your presentation.
lot of work has been put into this. I have a few questions, but it's more in probably you just said that there's going to be another rollout of this study specifically. So, but mainly for us in Dieppe, when you look at the international economy right now, and we're looking at the growth, we're seeing that the professional in sales and services are our core right now in the market compared to the private sector. We're seeing the private sector that has been kind of stable due to that economy, but they're now thinking of it, of reinvesting and looking in technology in order to grow. So do we have or have we done or can we have the number of also of the salary approximate wages yearly per every segment of those?
Yes, that data is available. It's not in the report, but that data is available. And I do want to tell you that one of the things Francesco's group, the economic development team, does want to do at the Services Commission is support the economic development efforts of the municipalities. So if there's information like that you need or would like his team to put together, I'm sure they can consider that. But we do have that information. That data is available. Yeah, at least estimates of that data.
That's perfect, because in order to look also at the transport en commun, the transport itself, if we know that it's more, we need to pay more attention, and depending on which one will be growing, because 9,000 new in 10 years of new employment is a lot of people.
Yes, for sure.
The other thing, okay, you said that scenario 2 and 3 would be more adapted to what we've seen historically for now, right?
Yes. So scenario 2 actually follows your population growth all the way back to 2001, and scenario 3 follows your population growth in recent years. So you're already at the outer end of a kind of a growth rate, a fast growth rate for a community. Now you can grow faster, I guess, if you want, but you've been growing very fast, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Merci beaucoup. Autre question?
Thank you. Any further questions?
Work, as you know, we go back a few years, and it's always very special to receive one of your works, because I know how detailed you are and how we can rely on that. And I think everybody that's sitting around this table should be proud, and I know you all are, of what we've been doing for the past number of years, and what we intend to continue to do for many, many more years, certainly. And much of the credit goes to staff, and we have exceptionally good staff, and don't all running looking for a salary increase now. The reality is such, but we're very fortunate to have the staff we have, and we hope that this trend will continue as we continue to move forward. So again, thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, folks.
La prochaine présentation concernant.
Thank you. The next presentation is on the public transit, and it is the results of a survey, what's happening with our buses and all of these wonderful things.
Voilà. Si vous voulez vous identifier en premier.
If you'd like
puis-
to introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there. Thank you. My name is Reda Benima, and I'm a housing liaison officer for the off-campus housing for the University of Moncton. I'm also responsible for the transportation. We have a team here representing active transportation, and La FECUM are here with me. We're the representatives of the students at the university. The group that works on the environment at the university as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And this evening, I'm going to present the results of the survey that we conducted in 2024 to highlight the challenges of the university population. And we often talk to the Coalition for Active Transportation, and it's the same challenges that the general population faces. So in the region, we mean Dieppe, Moncton, and Riverview, of course.
Peut-être dire quelque chose d'autre. Dire ici, il faut. Je sais pas comment je fais basculer. Je suis pas certain. Ça peut passer, c'est un peu. Les flèches, ça c'est un peu. Le mien, mais il n'est pas branché. Ça, c'est le mien. Non, non, ça, c'est le mien. Ça, c'est juste le mien, il n'est pas
oui,
branché.
excuse-moi.
Pardon.
Mais c'est comme ça. Je te montre là, avec la
Ah,
flèche.
la souris. Ok,
Ok.
d'accord, parfait. Oh. Alors, dans un contexte justement de ville, comme on a dit, comme la ville de Dieppe.
The city of Dieppe, and in the presentations that came before, they talked about the major growth here in the city of Dieppe. And last year in 2024, one of the highest growth rates across Canada was here. And in order to continue at this rate of growth, we have to make sure that public transit follows the pace. It is a pillar that has to be follow the pace. So when we organized this survey, we looked at the major issues like the environment, and there are green spaces that we have to promote, but we also have to encourage users of the automobile to move towards public transit in order to reduce the carbon emissions and to improve the quality of the air. We saw how climate change has harmed our environment, especially in Canada with all of the wildfires and elsewhere. At the university, the university developed a plan in 2023 that aims at aims to be carbon neutral by 2040, and I hope that Dieppe will join in that movement. We need a safe and reliable service, bus service, one that is accessible, will allow all members of the community, and including students, the elderly, workers, and all members of the community to use the service to travel with confidence, and helps to strengthen social cohesion. Economically speaking, of course, by facilitating bus access to employees and facilitating access to employment and to businesses and to services. It's a way to attract new residents, new investors. And of course, by maintaining the objective of increasing the attractiveness and the reliability and the access to public transit. I'm sorry, there are too many computers here. It's a little disturbing. Now, with our team, we summarized the survey into three major information groups. The first one to look at the population that responded to the survey. 378 people responded, which recognize 9% of the 9% of the population. It's a survey that was sent by email to all university, to the whole university population, and so 9% responded to it. So 32% of them said yes, they have taken the bus, but 68% do not feel attracted to public transit. We attempted to identify the causes why people do not take the bus. Here you see two pie charts. The first one, you see the main reasons why somebody does not use the bus, and then the 36% others, the 36% other in green, they're the ones that are shown in the second pie chart. So there was almost 50% of them have a car, and some of them prefer to walk because they live close by. It takes a lot longer to take the bus than to walk, or many of them use a bike as well for the same reasons. And then if you look at the little section of the pie, some of them said that the journey takes too long, or that the service is unreliable, or that it is too expensive.
On vous montre dans cette
Here,
diapo
in this graph, you see the rate of dissatisfaction regarding waiting times at bus stops. Notice that almost 70% are not satisfied. Their wait times are very high. And so that makes it makes public transit unattractive for many users. So now we can share the details of the survey. We've already shared the results with Kodiak Transport, but we can share them with you if you're interested. Now here we just see several proposals to improve public transportation. The first one would be to standardize stops because there's a difference between the stops here in Dieppe and the stops in the other cities. And if it would be possible to indicate which direction the bus is going in, what is its destination. Secondly, we recommend to put the terminus at the Dumont University Hospital rather than closer to the Champlain Mall. Like all the Dieppe buses stop at the Champlain Mall, but in order to strengthen the link with the Francophone population and the Université de Moncton, there are a number of Francophones who would like to live here in the Francophone environment, but there is no direct transportation link between the university and the Francophone areas like Dieppe. So that does not promote people settling here. So we would recommend moving the terminus to the hospital area, the Dumont Hospital area, will allow a easier flow and make the transportation more fluid for these people. We would also like the bus to add, to have a route on Antonin Maillet Street, because as you know, it takes 20 minutes to walk to the bus stop at the very bottom of the campus if you're at the top of the campus, and it's very difficult, especially in winter. So if there could be 1 or 2 stops on the university campus, and then it could come back to University Avenue or the Dumont University Hospital or the DFO building. Now, between the employees, students, and people who live in that area, we calculated there's about 10,000 people per day who could move through that area. So it's a large number. We would also like to introduce two-way routes. So have at least 2 buses on each line to reduce the time that it takes to get from point A to point B, because it takes maybe just 10 minutes or 15 to get from point A to point B, but it might take 45 to get from point B to point A because it's one big loop. So if you had a two-way route, it would encourage greater number of people to take the bus. And something else, the university has a great number of students from northern New Brunswick where public transit doesn't even exist. Everybody has a car. So when they come to a city like Dieppe or Moncton or Riverview, public transportation exists, but they're not familiar with it. And so they're not necessarily going to go themselves discover it, but they're used to taking their car for everything. If we were to propose free trials during the month that school starts up, or perhaps 1 day a month or 1 day a week, that would perhaps allow them to get to know and get to love this mode of transportation and might encourage them to become future clients and to integrate on-demand transport into the existing routes. And I'd like to congratulate the city of Dieppe for that, because it's really at the forefront here. It's one of the first cities to do this, certainly before Moncton and Riverview. And we're going to propose it to future meetings with Kodiak, because it allows us to bring people from more isolated, more remote areas to the existing bus lines. And that would allow, why not? And this allows us to decide to, it can allow the decision to extend the bus routes to that distance if a lot of people use the on-demand, and modernize the payment system. You still have to put cash, change on the bus. Not everybody has cash or change in their pocket. I was one of the first people to face this when I came here. So people pay by card now today. So it should really make payment easier. And this is something that has to be reviewed today. So in conclusion, you have to review the schedules, the frequency, which is insufficient, and by adapting the schedule to work schedules. I had a surprise when at 7 in the morning, I saw the greater number of buses than people getting off it. So, I mean, you should match the schedule with the work schedule. And we talked about two-way routes and 1 bus in each direction at least to reduce the the time of each route. And some people have to go a long way even to find a bus stop. We talked about on-demand transportation. Perhaps we should add other stops to serve those zones that are more remote. And the cost is unaffordable. For example, a student that buys a parking pass, it's cheaper than buying a monthly bus pass. So of course they're going to use their car. So they're not going to take the bus. So the bus has to be adapted to the population that uses it. And lastly, the lack of information. So I heard from Kodiak, but there aren't enough information campaigns so people find out what exists. Thank you, and I'm ready to take your questions.
Thank you. Questions by members. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. Here's my question. Some years ago, people complained about the length of the trip and they wanted shorter trips. So we eliminated some of the trips and we put transportation on demand to complement that. Now, these topics have come back and some people want shorter trips and also they would like to have more trips. So how can we reconcile both of these requests? How can we be balanced between these two objectives so we can have be able to serve more citizens? Well, in this presentations, we saw that there is a demographic explosion. So because of this rise, we can't work with the same system that has been around for a long time. So it's a service which is provided to the community, this public transportation. You can't have immediate gains. It's true, you know, that doesn't cost too much to the city, but at the outset, when you want to have people to support this, but it has to be attractive. So if I want to take public transportation and I want to take the bus, but I have a car, I have to be really need to find the product that answers my needs and prevents me from taking the car. I take the car on the weekend if I want to travel or go elsewhere, but during the week, when I go to work, I will take the bus. But it has to answer that need. It has to be attractive for citizens. Thank you. It's our worship who suggested that transportation be free for anyone, for everyone. That might be the solution. No doubt in my mind. Councillor Boutillier. Yes, no doubt in my mind at all. Thank you for this presentation. And how many students live in Dieppe right now who attend University of Moncton? With Jeremy, he asked me, we're working on calculating that. We don't really have an exact answer to that question, but I did find some additional information. Students don't always tell us where they really live. They keep their parents' address, for example, in Labrador or wherever, or they come from Nova Scotia, wherever. So it's not always clear. So we have to work to see what the students' addresses are. But I would say about 90% of the data is there, and we will certainly share that data with services. But I don't have the figures in front of me. I know that between Dieppe and part of Louisville to Sandy Bay, there are almost 1,400 students, but the data isn't very specific yet to let us know exactly. But we'll come back to you with those figures and we'll share them and send them to Jeremy. Thank you. I have another question. The study asks that there's a high level of dissatisfaction with a wait time. What is a high wait time and what should be a reasonable wait time according to students? So a high wait time is more than 20 minutes. When we put the figures in, 15 to 20 minutes wait time, and during the winter, we don't have heated stops or protected stops. So 10 minutes is already a lot, too much. During the winter, during the summer, there's no concern. People will wait 15 to 20 minutes maximum. But during the winter, I would say even 5 minutes is a long time. If the bus stops are not equipped to be protected, they're not sheltered or heated. If it's under 25 Celsius or 20 Celsius, it's a little difficult to stay there more than 10 minutes at a time. And for the wait time, but also you mentioned the time it takes to get to destination. What is a reasonable time from start to finish? Well, what's reasonable is that the time to go and to come back be equal. So if someone lives in Dover and they want to come to Moncton, we know that that trip will take about 20 minutes. But to come back, because the bus goes through the full circuit, it's almost an hour to get back home. So there's an imbalance between the time to go and to come back, and that's frustrating for transportation users. It's not just the University of Moncton, but to the city center of Moncton in the same aspect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Goodboo. Thank you. Thank you for this presentation, and thank you for these ideas to solve the issues. I have 2 vehicles that go to University of Moncton every day for 4 people. So a bus system which would have more accessibility would suit, and I hear you. So we continue to try and improve things. So thank you for these ideas that we can explore, and I think our employees have certainly noted what you're saying. For you at the university, what's your next step with regard to your ideas? I'm looking at the assessment you did of 380 users. I don't think I saw a profile. I didn't see a profile of the users. How many were locals, not locals? I always say that we have many people who we haven't yet targeted to get information. For example, I have 3 children who go to the University of Moncton every day at the current time. And I know that they didn't do the survey. They didn't answer any survey. Are efforts being made? Because I think it's great. And there are other organizations, for example, who work with in conjunction with other organizations to promote these ideas and explore things a little further, look at the solutions and the options, some of which are more viable than others. With regard to the profile, we have the information. We can share the details with you, but I think 60% were employees and 38% were students, and a percentage who didn't answer that question, whether they were students or employees. So the small percentage are employed and also students at the same time. So there was a little bit of crossover, but I would say, 60% employees, about 40% student. Could we go further with these surveys, or do you think that this current survey is to promote other studies by others? No, we will have a second survey with the Student Association, and we'll do it this year. Between now and the end of the year, we'll do another survey that we're happy to share with you, because Kodiak Transportation, uh, asked to do some changes when school came back. We still haven't brought in new services, but we'll be doing a second survey to see how we can answer that, and we'll come back with those details. I encourage you to do that because it certainly comes back to the idea. We look at the city of Dieppe, we have one home, one car that goes with it. We need a public transportation system to come to complement that. And I think that in my circle, in my age group of people, I know there are adult children who go to school. You're adding a second or third vehicle to the homes, and they don't think about taking a bus as a means of not having this option. So when you look at the changes in ideas and getting to our objectives, I think we should be looking into some of these ideas here and see which ones we can implement. So thank you. Anyone else? Have you anything to add? Won't take much time. Nothing for this time being. Yes, we're working together on this. That's great. I'll take you at your word, and thank you. I think we can support the initiatives that we have on our work plan. There will be a direct link to Georges Dumont and the university, because these services were available during the pandemic. The pandemic brought us what it brought us, and so we will be supporting our discussions with Kodiak and Champlain Mall and the University of Moncton through all of this. Thank you. Even if I am very much in favor of public transportation and free at that, I see that we're far from choosing that solution today. But any initiative that would encourage us to move in that direction will allow us to create a completely different situation. So once again, don't give up and good luck. Thank you. The next presenter is the Dieppe Community Orchard.
Oui, donc la présentation.
Yes. So the presentation is just here. Okay. Hello, Your Worship, members of council. I want to introduce the partners today to talk about creating the community garden, which is near the Aquatic Center. I have Jeannie Brooks, Max Duchesne from Max is from New Horizons, and Jeannie from Eco Energy. And we'll translate what the Regional Resilience Steering Committee has present the project and invite you to attend our public event. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
So that's the first one, right? Thank you. So a little bit about the Regional Resiliency Steering Committee. So we're part of the steering committee. It was created in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is a networking steering committee of all of the regions, the Southeast region's nonprofits, charities, government or agencies. And so we meet monthly, we discuss and create actionable plans that ensure our region is continuously more resilient and capable of managing challenges, whether it be climate, disaster, homelessness, housing, food insecurity, those kind of things. And so within the Regional Resiliency Steering Committee, we have activity leads every year. We apply for funding, and then we act on that, on those projects. And so this one this year for our specific working group was the community green spaces. So I'll let Janie talk about that.
Yeah, hello. So I'm Janie. I work at EOS Eco Energy. We're based in Sackville, New Brunswick. Yeah, we wanted to focus on community green spaces for a variety of reasons. I'm sure a lot of you already know about all of the co-benefits of community green spaces, as Dieppe already has some really beautiful ones, and that's awesome. It's always exciting to add on more. But community green spaces play a big role in resiliency when it comes to climate change and biodiversity, and also community and the residents living here as green spaces that are accessible to everyone, can support residents in their connections to nature and knowledge of native plant species. EOS as an organization has planted a lot of different types of green spaces. We planted a big green roof on the Tantramar Town Hall, previously Sackville Town Hall. We also planted a green roof on Mount Allison University's Student Center, and all of the local schools in the Tantramar and Strait Shores region, we have planted food forests at. And yeah, we decided on doing a community orchard that's a little bit more organized in boxes and trees so that it's easier for mowers. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of co-benefits that green spaces provide. And yeah, to go next, do I just, okay. We, in collaboration with the City of Dieppe staff and the rest of the Regional Resiliency Committee Working Group, we selected the Dieppe Aquatic and Sports Center as the trails to the center get a lot of foot traffic, and there's a lot of youth especially. They're also very accessible. The paths are very wide, and yeah, it's also the location of our orchard project is right next to the pollinator garden and the monarch sculpture put in a couple years ago. And so we really are excited because these projects complement each other a lot in attracting pollinators and being educational as well.
That's just a little photo of our planting team. So on June 24th, we took advantage of United Way's Day of Caring, and we had about 5 folks from Rogers come and help us plant, along with the Dieppe city staff who were excellent, and then our regional resiliency crew as well. So we did all the planting that day, and the partnership with the city has been wonderful. They generously provided funds for all the trees in the plants. We weren't expecting that. We had budgeted that in, but that was fantastic. And all the site preparation. So they provided all the raised bed materials, and they constructed all the beautiful beds. They dug the holes for the trees that were to be planted prior to the day. Otherwise, we would have been there for 13 hours digging holes. So it was really nice to come in and have that already done. They provided all the mulch, the soil, and the tree staking supplies for all of the tree saplings that went in. And they also agreed, which was huge, to water the site regularly in the first growing season. So you'll see a photo later on of our pollinator garden, and that wouldn't have looked anything like it would have if they hadn't been continually watering with this very dry summer. So like I said, we had personnel on the planting day in June, and we had a good turnout of folks to plant. And again, we couldn't have done any of the work without the partnership with the city. So really, really thankful for that.
I'll talk a little bit about the layout of the orchard and the plants there, even though it was the Green Projects Coordinator, Caitlin McNamara at EOS, who designed all of this and was the lead on selecting these plants. But this is the pathway that goes up to the aquatic center. And you can see that all of the plants are planted right along that pathway. So they're very accessible to people walking through. The trees are planted all throughout this distance, and then kind of in the middle of this trail are all of the planter boxes. These are the fruit trees that are at the orchard. It will take a few years for the bigger ones to start to get big enough to produce fruit, but it was very exciting that this little baby cherry tree did pop out a few cherries. So yeah, the plants are eager to start producing. And I think a lot of this is because, like Max said about the watering and the great job that the Dieppe staff have done with watering this orchard in its early days, as that is incredibly important to its beginning growth spurts. There's a planter box full of herbs, and these herbs are mostly common and native in this region. So they're herbs that people are familiar with and used to cooking with. So and I should say we're going to put signage. I'll just go back real quick. I forgot to say we're going to install signage. We haven't developed it yet, but there will be signage, I think at each end of the trail and some throughout. We have yet to figure this out, but there will be some educational signage and kind of making it clear that this space is available for anybody to come and pick fruit or herbs. There's also a pollinator patch, and as I was saying, how this project complements the butterfly project well, as it adds some asters and yarrow and milkweed to this area to be a good stopover place for pollinators and birds. And lastly, I just will say that this Saturday, we're having a Meet the Orchard launch event where most of our team will be there to answer questions. The person who kind of designed the whole layout and was the lead on selecting the plants will be there giving little orchard tours for people stopping by between 10 a.m. and noon. There will also be free herbs while supplies last, and you can enter to win a free baby apple tree, which is exciting. And yeah, we hope to see you there. We would love to see a lot of you. And I just want to thank the city of Dieppe, as Max said, for providing so much support and being such great partners on this project. We've been so grateful to have this partnership, and thank you for having us here today.
And where is that field again?
So it's outside, it's kind of down the hill next to the retention pond of the Dieppe Aquatic Center.
Okay.
It's by the big butterfly, the butterfly sculpture. I guess that's the main landmark to point it out, is it's right next to the butterfly sculpture.
Question?
Questions? Questions, Councillor Godbout? None? I have the same problem with because they go where they want. If there are no questions, if you have anything to add, please do so now. Our team is going to be around on Saturday. If you want to come and visit, invite the family and your friends. You can visit the orchard and the gardens. And I would like to invite those of you who were wondering about the funding from the city comes from the tree bylaw to help plant the trees. And that's how we were able to put some money into this project. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. Excellent. And thank you. Unless there are any further questions by council members? Seeing none? Thank you.
Item numéro 6.
We're at item number 6. Sorry, 5. I guess I was trying to move more quickly. Don't say I didn't try. Item 5. A presentation. Mr. Girard. Good evening, Your Worship, council members. It is my great pleasure to give you the major outlines of the new incentive policy for nonprofit housing. My objective is to give you an overview of what is going to be we'll be providing by incentives. Before getting into the details of this policy, I would like to tell you about the work has been done up until now to get to a housing strategy incentive for off-market housing. So in 2024, the city completed the Dieppe housing strategy, and this followed a study in the fall of 2023 about housing needs. Since then, the city has worked with Housing NB to create 2 projects. They're currently under construction on Melançon. We're talking about a section of Gauvin, and we added a new building there that we went from 10 units to 20 units total. We were involved in a visioning exercise with the CCNB and expansion Dieppe. We initiated work on the urban growth strategy and initiated work on a secondary plan for the area surrounding the extension of Dieppe Boulevard. As was mentioned in the past, we had received funds to accelerate the creation of housing through the HAF, which is administered by the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Fund. So this initiative is to present a new incentive for off-market housing is the result of a housing plan with this organization. We began a review of parking ratios and amendments to allow for the authorization of 4 units in as of right in residential zones. At the current time, there are almost 1,600 housing units under construction in Dieppe. And so this is for us to reflect on the creation of housing, which is currently underway. This are not all affordable housing units, but I want to underline that there's a strong growth in housing units in the municipality. So the policy which is going to be presented today is a direct line with the strategic plan. And so here you can see the result of the strategic plan. a Dieppe which is dynamic, accessible, and inclusive, answer the needs of the community by offering varied housing in areas where there's a quality of life. And so we want an incentive program between now and 2027 to develop housing off market. So at the outset, we're talking about a policy which applies to nonprofit and cooperative housing, which is an incentive program for developers or an incentive for individuals. We're talking about funding which would be dedicated only to nonprofit organizations or cooperatives. This would be an objective to encourage the construction of new buildings or renovation of existing buildings. The policy has two main funding components. The first component, supports pre-development work for nonprofit and cooperative housing units. This work may include feasibility studies, design plans, drawings, a geotechnical study, and technical plans. So the second component is intended for providers of nonprofit and cooperative housing to reimburse all costs related to the development or subdivisioning. If you want to come and get a building permit, there will be a complete reimbursement or the equivalent of a complete reimbursement of these costs. So for component one, I think the importance of component one is that the municipality would provide up to an amount of $50,000 to cover costs associated with the pre-development work. It's important to put things into context. And when it comes to nonprofit organizations, the investment to see if the project is feasible and to hire professionals is still a fairly substantial cost for these nonprofit organizations. So here, this amount would help to pay for these costs, and we associate to a maximum of $25,000 to do the feasibility study, and also we cover another $25,000 to pay for other elements like a development plan, a construction plan, a drainage plan, and all those types of components.
And the second component then would be a reimbursement for everything related to building permit, planning permits, and so on. Whereas in stream one, it's really exploratory in nature, but here you're already in the actual plans. One of the conditions of the grant would be that they would be based on the availability of it and would reflect the capacity of the city to pay. We didn't give a total amount here, but this will be presented in the budget deliberations when the different funds will be allocated. So in summary, the nonprofit affordable housing in what we call off-market housing has been identified as a priority in Dieppe's housing strategy, given that the municipality is underserved in this area. And there will be two funding streams for nonprofits in order to encourage the development of new affordable housing or to renovate existing housing. Next steps, then, we'd like to present the policy on September 22nd in the hopes of having it adopted by October 14th. Something we'd like to mention as well is that there will probably be a policy. The policy will probably be retroactive, and we've had discussions with different nonprofits, and we'd like to have the opportunity to present a policy with a retroactive date for example, January 1st, 2025. So that's my my presentation, but of course I'm here to answer your questions. Any questions from council?
Okay, Monsieur Rideau.
Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question. Do we have a lot of requests for affordable housing, reasonably priced housing these days? Yes, affordable is the word, yes. Well, at this point, as I mentioned, the policy is to get off-market affordable housing. So it would be non-for-profits that would like to develop or renovate existing housing. At this point, we have to distinguish between affordable housing when it's being proposed by a developer, but what we're trying to target here are the not-for-profit organizations to help them to launch projects, to help them pay for feasibility studies, their technical studies, hire professionals in order to present a concrete project in order to lead to the creation of this type of housing. We've had several discussions with different organizations, and one of their biggest setbacks or obstacles is the whole question of pre-development, to invest money in these feasibility studies without getting a return on the investment necessarily. So this is really in the context of um, the municipality having a certain amount of risk, but it's a mitigated risk in terms of what's being proposed here. Thank you. Councillor Le Boutillier, thank you. Thank you for your presentation and for the initiative. It's great. My question is, how many organizations do we have in the nonprofit world currently? Well, I don't have that figure from memory, but we're not well served here in Dieppe. There might be 5 or 6 organizations that we're very familiar with, but there are some organizations from outside that could come or would like to come set up shop here in Dieppe in order to create this kind of housing. So once again, the policy does have a maximum. So we have a general idea of how many applications we might receive. We probably won't receive more than 2, 3, or 4 a year, but that would still be successful. So I hope that answers your question, and I can come back with a more specific number if you like, but at this point, we're expecting maybe 5 or 6. And most of them are in the Greater Moncton area? Yeah, yes, probably, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Jeannin. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation on the incentive policy. And I'm very happy to see this on the table today. And I'm just wondering if I remember, it's not that I've seen very many or that I've heard of many not-for-profits that work in this sector, but if I remember correctly, I thought the approach was to give land and they would look after the rest. So through these discussions, which approach is the better? Will it be an obstacle for them to go this route in which we would pay the feasibility studies, for example? Or do we think that we're going to be successful in this? Yeah, that's a very good question. Once again, through our discussions with the representatives of the New-Brunswick Nonprofit Housing Association, Peter Corbin, we've threw the idea out to him, and he gave us a good perspective on this. He thought that we were on the right road. So the important element for them was that the municipality launch this incentive in order to help pay these pre-development fees. For example, technical studies, feasibility studies, when you have to hire professionals to do the work. And then there's always an element of risk, and there's a capital investment required. So these organizations often have difficulty raising the capital to spend on this kind of study. The municipality then would support these projects. Something else that deserves being discussed is that throughout this approach, the objective was to have a navigation service here in the municipality that would work with Expansion Dieppe. So it's really working with these organizations to try and understand their needs, to understand how they want to, how they see their project going through, and if if they can go ahead with support, financial support, then and move to a concrete project, I think it would be a really good project. Thank you. If there are no further questions. Thank you. Oh, there is a question. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question on the strategy and a couple of comments on the conditions for the grants. On the strategy for housing per se, in other municipalities, one of the approaches used is that the city itself takes the initiative and becomes the owner of the organization or the owner of the land or the building or whatever in order to really have control over the development. Now, as a strategy, and I know it's been mentioned in the past, for example, in Calgary, there's a whole enterprise that owns these buildings. What is the city's perspective? What is its analysis of this idea rather than encouraging development in the sector, in the nonprofit sector? That's an excellent question. I think it's one that deserves to be explored further because there would be an impact on the resources, that kind of program. Now, quite honestly, it's not something that's been looked at thoroughly, but it's something that we're going to continue to look at, all the different options. This isn't the example that we're putting forth here. The example that was discussed with the consultants was to launch this incentive program in order to stimulate the nonprofit sector because which are lacking in this context currently. And with Ms. Albert here, we have statistics. 6% of all of the housing units are off-market housing. So it's not a great number. It's tiny. Yes, it's just a small number. And we have to try and increase this to a higher number. And that's the strategy that we're hoping to get through this policy, is to encourage this nonprofit sector. But to your point, yes, it's something we're going to continue to look at as an option, especially if we notice that there isn't a lot of uptake, then perhaps people, there would be a challenge for something. So it's always a challenge to offer these grants. It's always a challenge to attract people to take us up on these grants. So it comes back to the conditions of the grants. I have a couple of questions on them. Did we think to add that these incentives be related to the concept of buy local, buy Canada, to make sure that we don't offer these grants other than in situations where it's buy Canada or buy local? And I think that would be a good idea. It would be consistent with the approach that other levels of government are taking, and it would be consistent with the tensions and the good use of public funding. No, unfortunately, we haven't taken that in consideration. We did have discussions with consultants and our representatives, and that's where council is going to have to find a balance, because if we add more conditions, then there might be a withdrawal or a reticence, a hesitation of the nonprofits to apply. And no, quite honestly, we didn't add that as a condition, but we weighed different conditions. But as soon as we added more, then it became too onerous and too difficult to get the funding. So that's why we're proposing a policy that has measured conditions, but there are a limited number of conditions for uh, admiss to be admissible to these grants. Even today, our Prime Minister mentioned announced programs today, and I think this would be aligned with the different programs of the Government of Canada and the province to buy Canadian, buy local. And, you know, in the past, it was something that we couldn't do because it was contrary to our international obligations, but that tendency is changing quickly and clearly. So I think we have to look at the way we do things. I'm not an expert in the field, but I think I'd like to look this a second time, even in the light of today's announcements with our Canada House and the Prime Minister, what they want to do, and the emphasis being placed on Buy Canada, Buy Canadian over the next 2 years. I think we're at the right time here to incorporate that without a great deal of risk. And secondly, one of the things I'm wondering if you looked at, sometimes because of all of the movements we see in provincial and federal government to announce funding, there's all sorts of programs, it seems, for the affordable housing. Now, the idea of the conditions of our grants, is it to try and add our grant to other organizations, to others, or to leverage these funding? For example, if you've received funding from program X, then we can match it to something here in Dieppe, for example, or is it the opposite? Are we saying if you've already received funding from another organization and you've already received public funding elsewhere, we won't not offer you as many incentives here? Did we consider that, or do we have a position? Well, in stream number 1, the component 1, which is the grant for the pre-development costs, this is fairly innovative in the sense that there aren't a great deal of funding organizations that fund this kind of pre-development activity. So it's new, but there is funding that we can match. But the main reason that we're proposing this here is that this is the message we received from the not-for-profits, to the effect that there is a lack of funding available to pay for these pre-development costs and activities. So that's why we're going to enhance we're going to fill a gap that exists in the market currently. Well, it would be interesting after a first year to see what we have funded, if we've funded other groups that have already been funded elsewhere, or if we're really the only ones who are doing this. Thank you. Those are my only comments. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Lantagne. Thank you. Yeah, just a very quick question. I was involved in the cooperative movement a long time, and there are cohorts throughout the area, even in Moncton. And so is this something that has been explored? And is there an organization at all, of federal or other, that you can go to? In the past, there was Co-op Atlantic here in Moncton. And when you had this kind of project, you could go see Co-op Atlantic. They had the expertise. They had people who could help launch this kind of program. Now, they're not there anymore. Are there other resources available now from the federal government? Is there a door you can go knock on to get help in launching a project as a housing co-op? Well, that's a good question, and it's something that weren't being mentioned here at council, is that we're trying to build this capacity. We're trying to understand how the housing machinery works, and There's a housing strategy, but there's the whole implementation plan that was finalized this year. And we want to put a person dedicated to housing within the municipality, so somebody who can fully understand all of the programs that exist, who best understands who does what in the whole housing field. Unfortunately, I don't have these answers for you tonight, but it's something that we are working on in order to build our capacity in terms of this and build our understanding. Yeah, there's the Canadian Cooperation Council, and they may be somebody you can contact to get information. Thank you, if you allow me. The province had a resource person, but this person left, unfortunately, so the resource is no longer available at the province. Expansion Dieppe also is trying to see if there is a nonprofit group that might be available to help launch and work on construction. But so we're having these meetings, we're having these discussions, but this will certainly help us get interest. And now, because from what we've heard, many not-for-profits don't have the financial ability to do this kind of work. So we'll continue our conversations. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. If there are no more lights on, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Ms. Landry, who is going to talk to us about the strategic plan update.
Voilà.
Je l'ai eu. Hey, c'est une première. Je suis contente, c'est la première fois que je l'ai. Bonjour tout le monde. On a gardé le dessert pour la fin, donc.
Oh, so the best is reserved for the end. And I'm glad to update you on our strategic plan 2025-2029. I had already presented an update in June, and I just want to show you how we've continued to progress. This summer, we renewed our strategic plan for the 2025-29 period. We developed a vision that is a little clearer, a very precise action plan. We maintained the mission, which is to shine as an inclusive and modern Francophone city that is proud of its Acadian roots. And you're familiar with that. We maintained our values that are of inclusion and integrity and innovation. We strengthened the vision by adding this notion of openness to diversity in a vibrant, family-oriented and safe municipality in harmony with nature. And we wanted to stand out as an innovative Acadian city that uses innovative approaches to manage its sustainable development. We developed an action plan to accompany the strategic plan 2025-29 to meet the new realities of rapid growth, the needs, housing needs, to preserving the environment, and to reinforce the sense of safety. We put a focus on our identity, on the protection of French, of the inclusion of population, demographic concerns such as housing that you've had a presentation on, and that's part of our strategic plan. We also consider sustainable development. In the strategic plan, we have 4 focus areas, and out of these 4 priorities, under them there are 11 strategies and 27 specific objectives. In order to meet these 27 objectives, we've developed a 5-year action plan with 76 targets, these SMART targets. 8 strategic initiatives, 15 value-added projects, and 53 operational improvements that will allow us to meet these objectives, these 27 objectives, and to achieve what we're planning to do in our strategic plan 2025-29. We want a simplified accountability, and in order to do so, we are going to follow the strategic plan and its action plan and evaluate the expected incomes. In 2025 is a transition year. It's a new tool, so we're working with the different departments and suppliers to develop to allow us to follow our progress and to give you the information that you need on the progress made. We're still in, well, 2025, as I said, is a transition year. We're learning, we're refining, and we're developing the tool and the reports that will be the best suited. Now, it's a 5-year plan, so I'll show you here the strategic directions. In August 2025, certain files have progressed for each one of our priority areas. We want to achieve 100% in each one of these. If at the end of the 5 years, we should have achieved 100% of our objectives. If we do simple math, by the end of December, we should have a 25% everywhere. We can see that the first priority, Dieppe, which is sustainable and prosperous, we're at 22. Dieppe, proud of its identity, we're at 25%. Dieppe is dynamic and accessible and inclusive, 10%. And the fourth, Dieppe, efficient and engaged, we're at 17% progress. Now, for the first focus area, which is Dieppe, Europe, sustainable and prosperous, there are 5 targets and 17 different projects. So the strategy 1.1 is to promote sustainable economic and territorial growth. There are 3 sub-objectives: to regulate urban development using the proper tools that would promote good practices. And then, of course, there's the review of the municipal plan, the review of ecology transition, and the reduction of greenhouse gases. This is that's in the action plan to take place between 2026 and 2029. That's why we're only at 5% now, but we're still working on it. The second strategy, is to orient densification and the mix of developments in different target sectors. We've reached 52%, and to develop to promote the development of serviced lots in the urban perimeter. That's what's advanced the most. We have a secondary plan, we have different projects, we have a urban growth strategy and the development of big projects. There are certain large projects, but that's not all of the 76 targets here. The third strategy, which is to value green spaces and natural environment, we're at 28%, so the progress is 20% for this strategy. What's included here for 2025-2027 is the ecological network. We've already reviewed a part of that in the secondary plan, the management of the urban forest, and there's a word in English here, and the master plan for green spaces. Now, the second priority, Dieppe, proud of its identity, we're at 25% progress for the first strategy, which is to develop an environment which is favorable to the vitality of French. We had the development of a strategy on francophonie that we're working on as an immigration strategy, and the allocation of resources to the francophonie. So you can see that we're progressing there. And if you want more details, please feel free. Now, the second strategy is to promote Acadian culture. We're at 27% progress on this strategy. And once again, this is on over the 5 years of the strategic plan. So, for example, we have the tourism strategy, to the Acadian identity and signage that corresponds to it, and cultural activities that highlight our identity. The third priority area is Dieppe dynamic, accessible and inclusive. We had 4 targets. The first one is to meet the needs of the community through varied housing supply in different quality life environments. And once again, this is a 5-year plan, but there is the housing strategy is in here, and the development of the downtown area, and the incentive that was just presented to you, that Alexander just presented to you, was the off-market housing incentives. So we're moving nicely in the first objective, and the second one to maintain and develop infrastructure and services. We don't see a great deal of progress here, but this is where we have work to do, and there's different infrastructure projects that are underway, but in order to get data on this, we'd have to relate it to different master plans. So that part of it has not been connected yet, but it's not zero. I mean, we've worked on it and we have developed different infrastructure projects throughout the year. Now, to develop infrastructure and sustainable mobility services, again, this is a 5-year plan. So the urban mobility plan, when we're talking about active transportation, public transit, adapted transport, on-demand transport. And the first objective is to improve the transportation services throughout the territory. And Jeremy is working on that. And I think you're aware of what he's doing. This is something we talk about often. Now, the 3.3 to continue the development of the downtown area and develop its potential. This is something that will be over 4 years, 2026 to 2029. We know this one, we know we're going to have a delay in one of these projects, which is the state of the downtown. We had a budget line last year to get somebody to analyze that and to work on the development of the downtown area. But there are certain issues as problems in recruitment. We don't have a person in the position yet, so we know that we'll probably be delayed on that project. The whole our progress is at 0 because the plan was only supposed to start in 2026. I'm already announcing that it's going to be delayed because we have to find the person to fill the position and have that person start before we can start doing the work.
The fourth orientation is an efficient and committed Dieppe. We want to ensure organizational capacity, and so we needed to provide some as internal services. We have performance and planning need to be updated. We have some work already accomplished, and we saw this with the implementation of new technology. The technological turning around that we're doing right now is happening, and implementation of 365 has to be done before many projects. So we're in the first year of 5 of this project. The second strategy was to promote constant improvement, change management, and effective management of resources. We are 17% on our way to putting in processes which promote efficiency and constant improvement. We're working on these different projects. The progression is fairly good. We're at 15% for this 5-year plan. The third strategy, structure and stimulate public involvement. Under this, it's a 5-year plan. We had reviewed the public participation. We need to use the correct tools and develop a public participation guide. We have a slow progress happening there, but it's not very representative. It's not doesn't mean that we're doing nothing. We saw in June that we did a forum on growth. We're consulting. We have many initiatives underway, but what we're targeting here and what we're measuring is the review of our policies and the creation of a guide. It doesn't mean that we're not doing other things. We are acting rather than doing that, but we still have 5 years to complete this project. Overall, I think that our projects are well underway. Our progress is efficient. Putting all our projects on one platform is a major challenge. So we have a learning curve to go through. We want to say that the team is motivated and determined to implement the strategic action plan and achieve the objectives set. Overall, we're satisfied with the progress of our strategic action plan. That's it. Any questions? Questions? Question by council members. Any questions? Any questions? There are none. Good. So thank you very much. So this concludes. Oh, there's another one? We need updates on commissions and external committees. If you have any updates, not mandatory, but if you have any, if you have none, then we can conclude our meeting, Your Worship. No lights have come on? Sorry?
Vous avez peut-être vu, puis ça a été
Councillor Goodall, you saw indicated in the news lately that the regional police force moved a resolution to recommend a budget for 2026 to municipal council. They're recommending, so there'll be an increase of 18.1% to 67 and some million dollars. The vote was 5-4, with the absence of one councillor. So it was fairly close. There was no consensus on this situation. They wanted to add a new RCMP member, and costs for the new building, which is going to be opening and expected to be done at the end of the year or early 2026 for the official opening. If we take this budget and into consideration that all new employees and not all are working throughout the year, so the costs are spread out through the year, the increase would be at 16 point some percent, so a budget of $66.2 million. So it's compared to the 29%. You remember last year, we looked at a budget with an addition of 17 new members, and which we approved with the municipalities at the time. The rationale that the policing authority is putting forward is that with the Curville-Taylor report, the municipalities came forward, and there's another Price Waterhouse Cooper report, which allowed us to put into effect their 3-year plan. There could be up to 46 new members added to staff throughout a period of time. They gave us a 5-year plan, so for 17, 15, 14. And you remember that last year, the municipality had put forward a budget which approved 70 new members, 77 new members. So of these new members, the RCMP, in the last report we had, they succeeded in hiring 7 out of the 17 in 2025. You might remember that last year at Council, we passed a resolution. We had discussions to the effect that before we approve another big amount of increasing this budget, we would need data, specific data that we could rely on to see what is the added value with these amounts. What would the results be if we spent this money? As you might imagine, with only 7 of the 17 hired, and only lately at that, and we still haven't had a full operational year, there is no data available. It's very difficult for us in this matter to have new significant increases. So I was one of the people who voted against the resolution, and we can talk about it in the further steps. And I want to be clear, municipalities have asked over and over again, and I want to thank you for the cooperation and councillors in other cities, the cooperation of mayors and administrators in other cities who worked really hard at meeting members of the policing authority and to have a dialogue. But I can say that communication was difficult. There was a lack of respect. We felt not wanted around the table. When we talked about municipal issues, we were accused of political interference. So it was interesting. So the committee was a fairly difficult one. And I put it out in public because I think it's important that we know these things. The policing authority didn't give us any other data except the 3-year plan to support their requests. And so when we were asked the policing authority, based on the data we have, what could we justify as a possible increase in staffing, we've heard from them that we could validate 4 people, not 50 new additional people. And so the RCMP at this time has difficulties in recruiting. It's hard. They do the best they can to, but we're lucky here because people want to come and work here so we can recruit them. But even with all of that and funding available, we haven't been able to fill all the positions this year. So it's fairly difficult as we look at our citizens and ask them to increase their tax payments and put some pressure on the RCMP to try and recruit when they already can't fill in the positions that they have for the mission that we've given them. Clearly, when we look at the budget, the policing authority is in a position where they don't necessarily have all the information that we have. They don't have the same perspective or the economic perspective that we have, that there are other ways of offering a policing service. We could use speed cameras at the intersections. These issues have not been explored around the table. So once again, I think it adds another question about their recommendation. So there are these and many other issues that I could raise. They don't necessarily have the full picture to support the recommendation that they put forward on the 15th. So I'm giving you this update. These are all things based on the recommendations. It still has to go through all the processes. It could come to us at this table, but until then, we remain to hope that we can continue to meet, educate them about the various issues that we have, and continue to work with them and try and have them look at other perspectives about these recommendations. And so eventually, it could come to us around this table for a further, longer, and more detailed discussion. But I simply wanted to say a few words because if people talk to you as you're out and about, we understand that these decisions, including big increases, these decisions have to be made knowing all the details and not necessarily increasing taxes for our citizens. Also knowing that some of the things that we're asking from our policing forces are really province-related issues, and we have to work with the province to find the funding for that and not necessarily increase the number of police officers on the street because there are societal issues as well to ensure political or public safety. So that's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I did want to give you a quick overview of things that we're talking about. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you. Anyone else? Good evening to all of you then.